Welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Worst, a podcast where we watch movie trilogies and decide which film is running low on gasoline. Joining me today...
I'm Luke Morgan, and I am the Ayatollah of rock and roller.
I'm just here for the gasoline.
Boys, it's Mad Max, an Australian cult classic. Luke, you have never seen these movies before. How did you go?
So... I'm a bit of a weird Australian where I try and avoid anything Australian. I don't like Australian cinema or Australian movies. I find the Australian accent annoying, ironically.
But you love NRL.
With you?
Which I know, it doesn't make any sense. And so I'd never seen these movies. Obviously, a lot of references from these that I'd known from other movies. I swear my parents threatened to put me in the Thunderdome my whole childhood, and I didn't know what it meant or anything. Never seen these movies, so I'm glad that I've watched them. Definitely a couple of them live up to what I've expected from this cult classic over these years of hyping it up. Very surprised in the direction of one of them after watching others, but I'm sure we'll get into that. But definitely glad I watched these films because I misjudged them for being an Australian film.
Conan, you infamously wrote a high distinction paper on Mad Max 2 in university. How did you enjoy this rewatch?
Quite infamously, yes. People are still talking about that in the university circles. So the rewatch, I'd seen 1 and 2. I'd never seen Thunderdome.
Oh, really?
So,
Really?
Yeah. I never, for whatever reason, it was. I think it was always one of those ones that everyone sort of said, "Oh, yeah, that's the weird child that nobody likes that shouldn't have happened." You know, it's the kind of that common thing in films of that era where I feel like they do 1 or 2 good ones and then they just kind of go, here's, they're tripping out on cocaine. They're like, what if we do this with the third one? And bam, they just have this weird one. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just never saw it for whatever reason. But yeah, similar to Luke, I think maybe a good solid half of this trilogy is, peak Australian cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And the other half is valuable. I don't know if it's good.
So when you say half, are you turning this into 4 films and including Fury Road, or are you?
No, so I mean quite literally that one of the films is 2 films. It's 2 films stitched together in a weird chimeric mess, and half of that film is tight. The other half is not my jam.
Interesting. All right. Well, should we start off with some stats?
Well, wait, Grant, you had seen this, right?
Oh yeah, sorry. My opinion. I like Mad Max. I've seen them all before. Enjoy them. They're the films. I've talked about this before, but they're the films my dad liked, and there's not many of those sort of films around, so they hold a high regard in my life. I grew up holidaying around the area where the first Mad Max is filmed, so in southern and sort of western Victoria around. It's a small town, but it's like around the area of Ballarat and like northwestern Melbourne and stuff like this.
Is it near Bartertown?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Cool. Yeah.
And Master Blaster runs Bartertown.
He does.
But
he was good. He was a good guy.
Yeah. So I don't know. We used to go to that area a lot when I was a kid. So like seeing these dudes drive around in these cars through those rolling hills and then those open flat bits of country. Like, I don't know. There's something nostalgic about it for me that I really enjoy.
Because the Australian outback was quite literally like this, wasn't it? Like there are just these weird souped up cars falling apart. There's psychos,
all sorts of things like that. It's terrible.
Yeah. Cars would just launch into the air.
Family holidays were very, very interesting back in those days.
Dramatic.
A rough time.
I will just say, I didn't touch on it earlier. With my history with Mad Max, I did watch Mad Max Fury Road when it first released. I watched that in cinemas. And so that was my first entry into the Mad Max series.
I think we could all sit here and lump praise on Mad Max Fury Road for the whole 2 hour. But we're going to just concentrate on the Mel Gibson trilogy for now. At the end, we might touch on Fury Road because what a film.
Yes, we will.
All right, let's kick off with some stats, eh?
Stats.
All right, Mad Max had a budget of only $200,000. Is this our cheapest film that we've ever done?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty sure it is. Pretty sure it is.
Jeez, that's not a lot of money.
No, it's really not. So the gross, I don't know. The gross is all over the place on Wikipedia. If you look at worldwide, it says $100 million, but other stats say somewhere more around like $15 million, and I think that might be a bit more accurate.
That's got to be like re-releases and stuff, I would say.
I think so, and it's got like the approximate sign next to it, so we won't trust that. But Mad Max 2, $4.5 million budget, made worldwide $36 million. And Beyond Thunderdome, $12 million budget, made $16 million. And Fury Road for fun, $150 million budget, and made $374 million worldwide.
So, not the success I thought it would be.
No.
Sorry, Thunderdome made $52 million. I read that wrong.
I was going to say that is like a $4 million profit. I was like, wow, that really bombed.
No. Thunderdome did pretty well, considering.
I mean, it had Tina Turner.
Tina Turner. Who doesn't want to turn up for Tina Turner?
She's not a draw. Who is?
Simply the best.
We don't need another. All right.
Jeez, I hate that song.
I know, it's bad. I couldn't stop singing it, though, as soon as that movie started.
I had no idea it was this song. And that's playing. I'm like, oh, this is the one she did. And it was a big revelation for me.
Yeah. Critical response, Metacritic, Mad Max, a score of 73. Mad Max 2, a score of 77. Thunderdome, a score of 71. Fury Road, a score of 90.
Damn.
That's the last we'll say about Fury Road.
Oh, I'm burning. I want to talk all about it.
Yeah. It'll have its time. Maybe, eventually there'll be a trilogy. I really hope there'll be a trilogy of modern Mad Max films that we can cover one day.
Yeah,
that would make me very happy. Boys, do these films deserve to be a trilogy?
Conan, you're the expert on this.
I am. Again, as a high distinction essayist, I think, look, Mad Max is one of the universes I think that actually has one of the most interesting and richest lores in modern cinema, I guess. Like, I'm surprised watching this, just how thought out and how actually deep a lot of it is. And part of the reason I think Fury Road works so well is because Miller had 20 years of just like processing this universe in his mind. He's like, this is how it all works. And I think it really is on show in these. Like, he does have ideas about what is, like, he hasn't just sort of, it's not something like The Matrix where they had a cool idea at one. They're like, okay, what do we do with the next few? Oh, I guess this is the universe we dip into. You can sort of tell he's thought about this the whole time. He's like, yeah, this is how it goes. This is what happens there. This is what would become of that. And so I think it is the kind of trilogy you can or series you can continually come to. Like, you can keep dipping into it. And this trilogy, the Mel Gibson one specifically, is actually a really great sort of overall arc of before the apocalypse, just after the apocalypse, and society rebuilding long term after that. So you've kind of got the end, the rebirth, and the continuation of civilization. And I think I've got a lot of respect for the third one because it is a really nice book ending. It's like, oh, this isn't just three tales. It's actually it is like a complete story in itself.
It's an interesting, I really enjoy it as a look at a filmmaker getting a budget and honing his craft. And like, the third movie doesn't hold up to that, but there is a story behind why George Miller didn't make probably the movie he would have liked to have. But like, particularly 1 and 2, looking at, like, it really feels like 2 is the movie that he wanted number 1 to be in a lot of ways.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Max is such an interesting character in that he's not much of a character. Like, he's not the reason. He's just like, he's the reason the story progresses, but he's not the one we're interested in the world. And I really enjoy that. And I want more of that. I'm keen for that.
Yeah. I think Max is one of the most fascinating Hollywood characters and like one of the most fascinating heroes for exactly those reasons, because he's not a hero. He's barely a character and he's really weak. He's constantly in danger. He's actually never like got the upper hand. It's just through pure like raw survival that he always copes. And he's really fascinating.
It kind of surprised me that every time he'd like go out on his own and it's like, I'm like, all right, Mad Max is going to kick some ass. He's out there for like 10 seconds and his car blows up and he like rolls down a hill. Like, awesome. He's a bloody mess and he's on death's door already. And I'm like, okay, that's over.
Yeah, he's forever scrambling to get some upper hand, but he never quite gets there. Luke, does it deserve to be a trilogy?
Yeah, like, I don't know. I have issues with the third film. It deserves to be a trilogy. And what Conan said is correct in like it sort of shows like the 3 stages of the apocalypse, and I can see that story being told. I just wish it was maybe done better and more cohesively in the same genre, or like if it felt like the third one really feels like a different series to me.
Yeah.
But obviously watching the first time, I was like, especially 1 and 2, I like how it progresses and everything like that. But yeah, like it's such an interesting world, and obviously Australian cinema, this was like a landmark for it. That I think it's one of those things where it doesn't even need to be a trilogy. It could be this thing that now it's this character story in this world. Like the world, it's you could just drop down and look at somebody's story in this world, and like, or have Max be like this thing that you view the world through, and just see all these interesting stories that are happening in the world. But yeah, it does deserve to be a trilogy.
We've got the Furiosa spin-off coming up. Like, I feel like that's going to be exactly that, right? Like,
yeah.
It's weird though what that's going to look like, because these films are anchored, all of them are anchored by Max, and the whole fact that he's not really the star, he's kind of like, he's a surrogate for the audience, and he's there, and he kind of makes some brief decisions, but it's mainly he reluctantly helps the good guys get out of peril, but he's always sort of there to change it. It's kind of like it's like a sort of take on that, classic sort of Western and samurai trope of like this wandering hero just enters a town, solves the problem. And so to not have him in Furiosa is going to be weird. Like, I don't know what that's going to... I'm sure it'll be great, but it's just going to be strange.
I found it funny that, like, in Thunderdome, they call him, like, it's the man with no name. And I'm like, oh. It is. It reminds me of that Clint Eastwood type thing.
I was totally reminded of those movies. Like, just like, drifter rolling into town. Yeah.
Very much riffing on all that stuff. Yeah, the mythology.
Who do we cast Dennis Franz as?
He can be Master Blaster. He could be the Blaster or the Master.
I'd like to see him as Master, actually.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see him as Master.
I mean, he could be humongous, whatever his name is.
Yeah,
the Lord Humongous
of rock and roller. Or Toe Cutter. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like he could just be the villain in every film, right? And
Dennis Franz fits in this universe, I feel.
They don't seem to have any problem recasting actors as different characters between films. So
no, which I love.
I enjoy it too. It's kind of off-putting between 2 and 3 because they're similar. At first glance, they're very similar characters, right?
And I feel, there is always a question. I think it's like maybe they actually are, and Max has just forgot. Oh, there you go. People don't even notice.
So
Bruce helicopter
Spence,
guy.
Bruce Spence is the gyro captain in 2, and then he's Jebediah the pilot in number 3.
See, I was going to ask you guys. I was like, why does Max not acknowledge that he knows this person? So is that a different character?
Yes.
That's also flying a plane.
Yes.
He could theoretically not be, because it's been like 10 years between the films, the timeline.
Yep.
And, at the end of number 2, he's with that girl. So it's like maybe he had a kid and something happened. So
that's what I assumed.
It could line up, but at the same time, he's a different character because, he's called Jebediah the captain instead of the gyro captain. So it's like, I don't know. It's just kind of a nice little loose end that these films do. There's a lot of them. And it's like, you can sort of fill that in how you feel.
See, because I kept being like, why does Max not remember this guy? And like, why is he... Oh, man. Yeah, okay.
It's weird. And especially at first, it catches you off guard. But I kind of enjoy it. And obviously, Toe Cutter from the first film is Immortan Joe in Fury Road.
Yeah, he is.
Hugh Keane's Barn or something?
Yeah.
Passed away a couple months ago.
Recently, yeah.
Yep.
Rest in peace.
All right.
He's burn. Yep.
He was good. He didn't do a heap, but he was fun in these movies.
He's a presence, right? Like, as Toe Cutter, he just kind of, he's there. And as Imogen Joe, he's frightening, but he's bringing the heat.
Oh, that movie. All right.
I just want to get into it. Let's go. No, we'll wait till the end.
Let's get past these ones first. Who loses? Which is the worst film of these 3? I mean, I think it's really obvious, but
no, I think we're going to disagree.
Sure. All right. Are you seriously going to say it's not Thunderdome?
Yeah, I'm going to say Mad Max 1 is the worst.
Why?
Oh,
Mad Max 1 is not a good film. It's like, I'm sorry, all right, this is the tricky thing. So you have to separate the legacy and the sheer influence of that film, because it's incredibly valuable. Like, it's invaluable to how it shaped cinema. So these are really like the first kind of big exploitation films that brought the Australian phenomenon overseas, that did really well, kind of to everyone's surprise, and made, okay, Australian cinema is actually a thing, and it's kind of it birthed the modern action blockbuster. It created the Australian desert landscape as an aesthetic. It shaped apocalyptic aesthetics with the leather and the bikers, all this stuff that is just like Fallout is directly inspired by this stuff. The arseless chaps, the bizarre, like all of it.
Man,
like
everyone's got arseless pants.
It's really strange. It's so freaking strange. The DNA of this film, all of them, but especially number 1 and 2, is in everything post-apocalyptic ever made from them. So I in no way want to detract from that and be like, oh, it's not important, because this film is one of the most important films ever made, I think, in Western cinema. But it's not a good movie. It's so strangely paced. It is so slow for an action film. It is really slow, and that's not just like the fact that it's made in '79. It's kind of like a weird revenge film that actually doesn't get into it until the last 20 minutes. There's
the thing he wants revenge for doesn't happen till the end.
There's just so many strange choices in this movie, and there's so much. The middle section, especially, nothing happens. It is so boring and so slow, and I totally get what they're trying to do. But I think part of it's because George Miller he's still figuring out his craft. He's trying to make a film on $200,000, which fantastic effort. Kudos. Like, I know I want to belittle him as well. I think he's one of my heroes, but I just don't think this movie holds up. And like you said, Greta, Mad Max 2 is everything he wanted to make.
Yeah.
And when you have Mad Max 2, it's like Mad Max 1 just doesn't need to exist. It actually doesn't do anything. There's nothing it does slightly better. It's only worse. That's my spiel.
All right. So this is the thing. I can separate it from its cult classic status because I went into this thinking they were going to be bad. Just because that's just my prejudice. I'd never seen them before. I came in fresh. Yes, I don't think one ages well. As in, like, it's rough, it's rough. Obviously, it's going to be. And when I started watching it, my wife and I, and she had never seen it either, we were sitting there watching it, and we're like, oh, man, we got to watch 3 of these. We're like, this is rough. Then there's a moment, like there's a point in that movie where I found myself sort of engaged with it. And when it finished, I was like, yeah, that got better. That got better. Especially like the second half, I was engaged with what was happening, entertained by it. Second one, loved the movie. Like, I was like, that was great. Like, I was captivated beginning to end of that film. The third one, there were about 7 or 8 times I actively paused the movie and I turned to my wife and I was like, what the hell happened? Like, what is this film?
Was all of this during the kids parts?
Okay, so you touched on it earlier, and I'm guessing this is what you were referencing about the movie that feels like 2 different movies, because it completely does. And I had this moment while I was watching the first half hour, first act of Thunderdome. I was like, okay, so obviously 1's the worst one. I was like, this is enjoyable, so this is like building up. I was like, this is entertaining. I was kind of engaged, and then once Max gets banished, I guess. And I start realizing, I'm like, man, this really is pulling the brakes up on violence in this film. Like, when I feel like the most violent thing is this guy getting some arrows in his ribs, and he's like, and dies, and that's the most violent thing that's happened so far.
So this was the first Mad Max to be PG-13, right? But the other 2 are rated in the States, yeah.
And compared to 1 and 2, man, it's such a change of pace. And
it really is, yeah.
The second half of this movie, which I feel like it goes for really long and it takes ages, is so bad. I really dislike the second half of this movie. Just the story with the kids and everything like that. Obviously, they're all bad actors.
Yeah,
it's into this weird territory where it feels like it's copying indigenous culture.
Yeah,
but it's like the new indigenous culture where we're like this, and the way they talk, where it's they really feel like they're acting like they're talking, like, I don't know if you know what I mean, like just skipping words and skipping.
He's trying to like create a new language, but I don't think it works.
It feels really forced.
It's really good in Fury Road. There's a lot of it in Fury Road, and it works. And I think he came to a point, but in this, you're right. The language is so bad; it's so frustrating.
And like as you say about the indigenous culture, like I totally got those vibes. And they're movies that are very like there's no indigenous representation in these movies at all.
No.
For Australian movies, that's kind of sad.
It's part and parcel of the industry at the time.
Right? I know.
It's understandable.
But it's also not right, I guess, too.
No, it feels so egregious when they are acting like that, and like almost, it feels like they're talking about like the dream time, like
Yeah.
when they're talking about it, and it's so blatant that it feels uncomfortable watching in this day and age. Especially, I'd never seen it as a kid. Like, I don't have this thing where I looked at it as like, oh, like these people. It feels really weird watching it now, and it feels uncomfortable in a way watching it.
It is, but I don't think he's doing it like he's not doing it like a caricature or anything. I think it is done fairly tactfully. It's like he's kind of like because again, it's in the 80s, so there's an element of like the industry didn't do right by them. I totally agree with you. They should have had like proper representation of Aboriginal people. But I think there's a sense of like this is our culture, and it's like, oh look, there's this return to the spiritual roots. Not saying it's handled perfectly because it's 1985. Very little was to do with racial politics. But it's not like he's, putting them in blackface. It's not like they've got a weird, funny accent. They're doing a broken language and they're referencing these broader Australian concepts. And I don't think it's like done as a flippant like, ha, how funny is like traditional Aboriginal spirituality. It's like, no, once civilization falls, we all revert back to something more important. And so it's not, it's not perfect without a doubt, but I don't think it's like a joke or it's not like, I never got the impression of like, oh, this is really hurtful. I think it's actually trying to be respectful. It's just not handled well.
Yeah, it's really not handled well. And
it's aged very poorly.
Very poorly. And obviously, this is what, early 80s, 85, I believe Thunderdome was.
85.
So, you got to give it some slack with that. I don't know, man. I feel like the actors were kind of tanned, like wearing tanning paint as well. Like,
I mean, they're living in the desert.
Yeah, I think I think that makes a lot of sense.
No, okay, I get it, but I don't know, man. Just everything about it.
You could say like they literally got cave paintings. They pass on their stories by telling stories to the younger generation, which is like a big part of Aboriginal culture.
And that's how they remember.
But not exclusive to it. Not exclusive to Aboriginal culture. That's big
it's not.
In any culture traditionally.
A lot of it, But, so I don't know. I think it's handled poorly, and it is uncomfortable. I felt a bit weird about it watching it today.
And it just okay. Let me get into this thing because, man, I can't fathom that Thunderdome is better than Mad Max 1 when the whole train sequence, man, this guy with the stupid stick and the head on it that he gets run over.
That was a cool costume. I'll rate that costume.
Okay, nothing against the costume. I'm just referencing the guy that he seems to be this thing that, he keeps coming back, is in a car that gets exploded in front of the train. He's stuck on the front of the train, all like black, like as if he's a cartoon character that set off a piece of dynamite. Then he shows up again in another car. Then he gets dropped off a bridge at one point. Then at the end, the car blows up again, rolls, and he still sticks his hand out and sticks the thumbs up. It's like so comical, and it feels so out of place with this movie where, the villains in the other ones were killed by like being run over by a car, and it's brutal and like body parts and limbs flying everywhere. And then to go PG and this cartoon character to be like and like blowing up and just like coming back again, it just.
There's a scene like where he's hanging off the side of the train on the railing and he's like lifting his legs up over all the obstacles and it's like this is like Bugs Bunny level shit. It's bad. And I think it comes back to them like trying to be PG-13. It's like, how do we make this interesting without some ultra violence? And
100%.
I just don't know that it really works.
It feels like they did that to be more mass appealing. I feel like it just seems like this is very Hollywood. Let's get Tina Turner in. Let's do this. Let's have it be Hook or like, something like, let's get these kids involved. That's what's hot in Hollywood at the moment. And it just doesn't feel like Mad Max.
We need to talk about the kids properly.
Yeah, like the kids reminded me so much of like the Lost Boys in Hook. Like you've got them swinging around on ropes and kicking dudes into puddles of shit and like
there was something in the water in the 80s because Hollywood went through this weird thing, this weird phase of like kids are the best. You've even got like, Star Wars 6 has the Ewoks, which are essentially just children. You've got Hook, you've got the Goonies, you've got this. Like, I feel like every film made in the 80s, you obviously got Spielberg creating things like E.T.
E.T.
You've just got this thing where every movie has kids as like these great heroes that can actually save the day. And I don't know if it's some social
Jurassic
anxiety.
Park.
Like all the big films just have kids and they're like a really big part. And every film from that era sucks because of it, because kids can't act.
Yeah.
And this has it in spades, whereas like half the film's got kids. I'm like, why do you... I'm telling you, the water was tainted.
Yeah, it was. It was like there's a scene when they finally get back to Bartertown, and just like, I don't know, when the drain falls off and like Max like, ooh, slides down like this drain. It feels so. It does not feel like Mad Max, and it feels like, what movie am I watching? This is not part of the same series that I was watching before.
They really, I don't know. I feel like they really blunt the edges of Max too. Like in number 2, like he does not care. Like he's there for the fuel, and that's it.
For the
Like,
what was it? Sorry.
For the guzzling, sorry.
Yeah.
For the guzzling. But like he's not really interested in helping them. He doesn't care about the feral kid or anything like that. And then in this, and like I get it, they're playing back to what happens to him in the first movie, but I don't know. It's the worst Max.
Easily.
Yeah. I mean, he's also kind of the coolest because he has long hair and he has like 15 guns. Like Max in the
that, I mean, how overdone is the "we need all your weapons" scene?
Like, oh my god!
Unload
it's
their whole
comical.
arsenal.
It's hilarious. It's like he pulls this massive one out of his pants.
And see, 2 has a kid, but feral kid I feel is iconic, man. Like
he's so bad though.
Obviously, he's badly acted, and it's badly like the way they do the boomerang, but that's nowhere near as bad as the kids in Thunder.
You want to talk about appropriation of culture? There's a problem.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like I think that's a huge red flag. If you want to hold that standard to number 3, you have to be like, this is bad, guys. You can't do that.
It's not on the same level. It's not on the same level.
I disagree. It's because not only that, you like, oh no, it's as bad. But anyway.
But man, at least he kills someone with that thing. He does something, man.
That's true.
He's responsible for more violence than all of Mad Max Thunderdome is. And the Thunderdome's talked up to be this bad thing. I mean, like I said earlier, I was threatened with the Thunderdome my whole life. I was expecting this to be really insane. Oh, there's chainsaws hanging up there. And man, they're just bouncing around, and it's like, it doesn't feel threatening or violent anymore.
No, I feel like the bouncing around was such a poor choice. And like, you look at some reviews, and like Roger Ebert's like, oh,
he loved it.
Thunderdome was such a good idea. It's such a unique take on like an arena battle. And it's so awkward the whole time they've got those straps on. As soon as they come off, it's like, okay, now we can have a fight.
Yeah.
But it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's held back. Yeah, like the fact that this film is PG-13 is the problem with it. It's like the entire problem with the film. Because obviously it was made with American money, which is why Tina Turner's in it. It's made by Warner Brothers instead of small Australian companies. And so they have to be like, well, we have to sell this. It's going to be... And you see that all the time, right? Hollywood's like, we don't want to do R-rated because it scares people away. And then we get things like the Wolverine films that don't have him killing anybody. We get Venom where it's somehow PG-13. And so you can't do this.
Mm.
It's a huge issue, but I don't know. I feel like if you put that aside for the movie, just try to mentally block that out. The first half of Beyond Thunderdome is awesome. It's really cool. I think it's very interesting.
Definitely better than the second half, but
yeah.
Can I defend? I really like Mad Max 1. Like, there's definitely some nostalgia there.
Yeah, sell it to me.
And there's definitely there is an element of like, this movie is very influential. And I don't think you can completely say it's a bad movie, but it's influential. Like, I think you have to give it some credit for that. But I enjoy what they do with such a small budget. Like, I feel like that movie is a movie where they're like, we don't have many actors. These streets feel really empty. Like, I'm going to go to this police station. There's no one here. But how can we make this world feel bigger? And I love the radio chatter that's always going on. There's like, I don't know. It feels very world building to me. Like, there's always something bigger happening. This world is bigger than we get to see, but we have this small, cheap lens to see it through. I really enjoy like the bikie gang going around and like harassing people, and like they are literally like a motorcycle group, like club. And they're just all dressed up in costumes, like working for free, basically, except for Toe Cutter.
It has that feeling, right? Like, of all those, you see those low budget films where it's like everybody just wants to make something cool, and you can tell they all believe in. You can tell no one's actually like, no movie stars turning up to like just for a payday. Everyone's like, we believe in doing something cool, and everyone's just having a blast in the sun. And yeah, like people just like that town that they filmed it in. You're right. It's just a normal town, and it looks like an apocalyptic town. But they're just like, we'll just film in this country area because it looks this way, and everyone's happy to have it happen.
Dude, I swear I drive past that town. Like, if I leave this town, I was like, this was just filmed here.
Yeah.
In the present day. I don't know. Like, for some country towns. Like
there's just as many boarded up like stores in little towns around us. You're right. I really appreciate it feels very dirty and grimy and grubby, that movie. Like, there's a lot of ugly people in that film that have these horrible, thick Australian accents that are hard to understand at times.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just oozes like Australiana. It oozes. I don't know. I really enjoy what they do there. It's not the best Mad Max film by any means. It might not be better than the first half of Thunderdome, but the last half of Thunderdome is so egregious to me. I really enjoy the like the car chases in number one. Like I think they're mostly done really well. You get the fun scenes of the dude's eyeballs popping out of his heads with that really cheap effect.
So strange.
The fast forward camera effect that George Miller has since perfected in like Fury Road.
It's a problem in the first one. It doesn't look good.
It's not as good, but I don't know. I really appreciate it. They named their baby Sprog. How can you not love that?
It's so weird.
It is weird. The middle does kind of suck. Like I could have this problem with number 3 too, but there's a Down syndrome character that they just sort of plonk in there.
Yeah,
is really strange, and then they're not like he's not treated well in number 3 either. Like I think
I think it's a problem in number 3 as well. I think it's a problem in number 3 as well.
I mean, it's kind of the point of the world, though, right? It's like a world of this weird, like, because in Fury Road as well, like, there's a lot of people who are like, I don't know what the proper word is, the proper term, but a lot of people with additional needs.
I think Fury Road plays it up as these are mutations of this post-apocalyptic world. They're not disabilities that we see today that we're making fun of or making light of. Let's play it up as
like Nux has Larry and Barry, his little lumps.
Yeah. But I think to the point, I get the feeling, I feel like it's meant to be in number 1 as well, as the world is dying from something. And that's kind of why everyone's so gross and ugly and weird looking in it, because it's meant to be a world that's just completely in decline everywhere. And I can see why some people would have a problem with the representation in these films, because there is a lot of it used. Like in Thunderdome, there's Master and Blaster, where it's like a small person riding a large, I guess he's someone with Down syndrome, right? That's what it is. So he's like riding this dude, and there's clearly, some issues there. But you're right, in the first one, it is just kind of he's there for no real reason.
He's not really there for any reason. You sort of get this sense that they maybe wanted to make him out to be the thing that scared off his wife, maybe. Like his impression that I got, but they never they don't really go anywhere with it. It's sort of strange. I don't know.
Yeah. I just think that middle part of the first film, holy crap. You get like this weirdly long saxophone solo by his wife. You get them hanging out in like the forest for a while, and then she's running for 20 minutes. And it's just
20 minutes.
It's a long time. She goes to the beach and it's a really long, slow walk, and then they're just there for some reason, and then she runs back for a long 20 minutes.
It is convenient that they're there, like after
all of that. Yeah. I think it's funny. The first film is like 80 minutes. It's very short. I feel like if you cut it down to about a solid 50, perfect.
Better film. Yeah, maybe. But I feel like if you cut Thunderdome down to about a 40-minute film, it's better.
If you just stop it. Max rides out on that horse and it's the credits roll. And it's like, well, I wonder what happened to him.
So you guys don't like the final chase scene in Thunderdome?
No, I don't, because it feels so watered down from what we got in 2. Like nothing feels threatening.
And even 1. Yep.
Yep. Like people fall out of their cars and it's like, ooh, and they start rolling. It doesn't feel like they're going to get run over and their head's going to flip onto the camera. Like it doesn't feel brutal or.
I mean, that only happens with Toe Cutter, right? Like there's no blood or gore in the other 2. It's all very it's all intentionally done off camera.
It's kind of tame. Max gets really messed up as well.
Yeah, he's the limit. Him and Toe Cutter's eyes exploding, but you never see like.
There's 2 scenes of people's eyes exploding because that happens at the start as well.
What does it?
They like crash through the caravan and stuff, and someone's eyes explode. I remember seeing it twice.
What's with George Miller and his eyes? Okay. Yeah, okay. So I didn't have an issue with it. I liked the chase scene. I thought it was a good way to end it. I just thought that middle, the children's section is terrible.
But then even like, I don't know, at the end, Tina Turner's just like, man, we're a pair, and drives off.
I like that.
Max is like, da-na-na-na, and like, I don't know, it's like, it feels, and I don't know, the whole time I was like, why does this guy not recognize Max? So it was really confusing me.
Different characters.
I knew it was the same actor, and because Alicia even said, like, she's like, that's the same guy, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, because I saw the IMDb before. I was like, it's the same actor.
Yeah, Australian treasure.
So I just,
He's so
tripped me
good
out,
in
man.
these movies, by the way. But anyway, we'll
Yeah.
get there. Number 2, particularly.
I think Gene Siskel sums it up well. The middle portion of the picture becomes dangerously preachy, but just before we and Max are bored, Miller returns to his roots, screaming chase sequence through a desert-like landscape. Ain't that the truth?
But it's not the middle.
do-
It's like a big chunk of the movie.
It's the middle. Like it's about half of it, sure.
Yeah, half of
Yeah.
the
I don't know. I still prefer number 1.
I feel
don't
like
know.
the
We're just
first one
gonna
is
vote
just not
because
good. It's super
Conan's
it's
not-
super important. It's super crucial to film, but it's
Yep.
not a good movie.
and these
but
are
I don't think number 3 is good either. Like 3 is not good. I
So you're
don't
saying
even
that
think
the first half isn't? There's nothing good there. Bartertown isn't interesting, or
It's good. I wouldn't say the first half of Thunderdome is so much better than number 1 that it undoes the horribleness
No.
of the
and
children.
it doesn't. It's not as good as number 2. Like it doesn't hold a candle to 2.
oh, for sure. But also fleshes the world out a lot more than number. Like it's a different film to number 2. It's tough being in number 2's shadow. So I
Yeah.
think that was the issue with number 3. Is that everyone was like, well, let's just have the same. I mean, we didn't even get with Fury Road. Fury Road is just one chase. Mad Max 2 is not a chase film. But 3, they're like, how do we do something different? And I think they expand the universe enough to make it. At least I find it really interesting. I just enjoy seeing like societies like this, Reborn. Bartertown is like this clear critique of capitalism, and so it's like this sort of there's a subtle like jab at like America's Reaganomics and stuff that's going on. I think that's really interesting. It's got a lot more commentary in mind than
The workers seizing the means of production. Yeah.
the first one doesn't have that, and the second one kind of doesn't either, really. Which you don't have to say political commentary is what makes a film, but I think it's for me. I added value to the third one.
It's like I feel like Thunderdome, even as much as it gets into the whole weird thing about copying indigenous culture and stuff like that, I feel like it really takes the soul out of Mad Max. I feel like it does not feel like an Aussie film anymore. Like it doesn't feel like it's the same place as 1 and 2 took place. I don't feel.
In Broken Hill, man, it's the same place as number 2.
So it was filmed in Australia. It just doesn't feel. It doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's, again, because it was like a co-American production, so there is a lot of American actors in there and like American. I think there was a lot more production involvement than
You got Tina Turner.
like
I mean,
all that stuff.
You know that Byron Kennedy died like in pre-production for this film. So and George Miller didn't want to continue with the film, but was kind of I don't know. I think he says he just continued to do something more or less.
Yeah.
I like that to me is how this movie feels. Like it feels like it's lost the auteur. It feels like it's lost the heart, which was George Miller. That's how 3 feels to me. Like it's now, like you say, a Hollywood production. We've got the Lost Boys swinging around on ropes.
Yep.
And it's just, I don't know. I prefer number 1, but
Yeah.
I'll just say one last piece on it. I feel like 1 and 2, especially I'd never seen them before. It feels unique watching them now. I feel like they're unique films, while number 3 definitely feels like Hollywood 80s film. Yeah.
That's fine. Like I'm not gonna. No, you're wrong, but like it's fine. People can be wrong at times. And again, number 1 is more important to the general cinema history, so let's give it to that.
Okay. Good.
All right. Well,
Fury Road's also a Hollywood production, but we love that. Let's just keep.
Oh, it's so good.
I was gonna say like that doesn't hold up when you start arguing for Fury Road because
No,
there's
it
like
doesn't.
there's like a lot of.
But it's not Mel Gibson.
Left-hand
Like it feels like a
drive.
reboot. It feels like a reboot kind of.
does.
And
That's another thing.
where it
The
does.
main Australian hero is not an Australian, which is weird. But anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll come to it. But I feel like number 4 like is a smaller. It's more like Mad Max 2. I feel like it's smaller. Like it fleshes out the world in some fun ways, but you don't like you never go to Guntown or any of the other places they talk about. They just mention
How cool would it be to go there? The
I
Bullet
don't
Farm.
I don't need to go there. I just
No,
need
honestly.
I need to hear about it, but I don't want to go there.
I want to know why they've got civilizations like just a few Ks away. You're in the desert, guys. Just build one huge city up.
Yeah. All right. Let's come back to. Sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack us. Well, who do we blame for the worst film? Conan, do you want to point number 1? What's the blame for that?
It feels bad blaming people. I
Doesn't have
blame
to be a person. It can be a thing.
I blame. Well, yeah, all of that. Like all
blame
the general trappings of Australian. Hey, that's a good actually point. Inexperience. Can we talk about George Miller real quick? Do you guys know much about his backstory?
Not really.
So George Miller, humble man, born somewhere in Queensland, I think. Worked as a doctor, as an ER doctor prior to this. So he was born in Chinchilla, which, funnily enough, was where my auntie and uncle lived. Tiny little town in Queensland. And yeah, he worked as a doctor, and so like he spent a lot of his time there, like saving the lives of people who are involved in car crashes. Because out in that part of the country, just long stretches of like highway and desert, very Mad Maxian. And so he sort of lived, like, saw this and saw like the devastation of car crashes and like saw all this stuff. So he's obviously really interested in it. And that's kind of what inspired this, where he saw the victims of speed and like adrenaline and the car culture of Australia and made these films. And so Mad Max was the first film that he made. He made some shorts before that. But I just think that's it. I think it's a matter of he really is a first-time director. Coming in as like, I have a dream, I have a passion, I have an idea. And he made something that would go on to become beautiful, beautiful films. But yeah, he's got very little money and he's trying to figure out an idea as he's going. And I think that's part of the issue. And he's a super talented director, goes on to make some great stuff, but
he's had an odd career. Like, it's just a strange twist to go from like Mad Max to Happy Feet, or the sequel to Babe.
That's kind of it. He makes Mad Max or kids films.
Let's not hate on Happy Feet. So Happy Feet's great. Very
successful film. Yeah, I just think the first one suffers from all those things. It's low budget, it's indie, it's first time, and it just has a lot of problems from that. And again, Australian film was really kind of limited at that point. So in a way, like the team behind this were writing the cinematic language for Australia, right? They didn't have people to look back to. They didn't really have much of an example to say this is, because this is 7 years before Crocodile Dundee, which sort of becomes the international film idea of what an Australian film is.
Mm.
So I really think they're kind of going in blind and like, what do we do? Like, how do we really make films? What does this look like? And so, again, you kind of give them bonus points for that. But as a result, they made a film that has terrible pacing and terrible scripts.
Luke, have you got something to blame for Thunderdome?
The kids. I blame the kids. It's the children who are wrong.
I agree. I blame the kids. And I think also, like, I feel like you could definitely feel George Miller didn't have it wasn't necessarily the passion project that he wanted to do at the time.
His heart wasn't in it, and therefore the heart of Mad Max wasn't in this film. I think going to PG also hurts it as well. Tina Turner's great. She can stay.
You're a fan?
I love Tina Turner. But, I don't know. It could have been
Nutbush every night.
Could have been great.
Oh, she did the Nutbush.
How do you not know your Tina Turner history? What kind of Australian are you?
Weird that an American singer is so pivotal to our history.
Man, NRL 90s, simply the best, man. That was like the NRL anthem. Still is.
Yeah, he's more Australian than most of us, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Did anybody deserve better?
I guess for me, no, not really.
What was his friend's name in the first one? Got burnt alive?
Was he the Knight Rider or whatever his name
was?
was?
No, Knight Rider's the bad guy.
To start. What's the blonde cop?
Oh, yeah. Who? Yeah, I don't know.
Goose,
yeah, Goose. Yeah.
He deserved better because that was a horrible end.
Oh, the big buff dude, like the big buff bald cop, he deserved better just because we didn't see him crush any skulls.
The cops had very.
Do you know who deserved? All right, V8s deserve better because all the interceptors die very quickly, and they're pretty gnarly cars. But also leather, because leather shouldn't be worn in hot Australian deserts. But for some reason, everyone wears leather in this.
That was the adopted thing. Should have been denim.
That makes more sense.
It's a bit odd.
Like, can we talk about that? Why do you think that's a choice?
It's definitely a choice, and it's so funny. We touched on it earlier. Like watching these films, I was just like, oh, like I swear I've seen that town in a Fallout game. Like it's like what sort of created this post-apocalyptic biker type aesthetic. I feel like it came from these movies.
It's odd, and like did the whole BDSM community just to get together and decide these are the outfits that we want to wear? Like I don't know.
This created the BDSM community.
It seems like it, doesn't it?
So my theory is this. Miller was like, we need leather because leather bike. Everyone who rides a bike wears leather jacket for protection. But there wasn't enough leather in the world, so he went to all the sex shops throughout Australia and was like, we need leather pants. And they're just like, well, we've got 6 pairs of arseless chaps. And he's like, that'll do. I don't I don't have a budget, so I'm going to take what I can
and this
get.
jacket with one shoulder pad, and that's it. That's all we've
Oh,
got.
I love his
It's
jacket.
iconic though.
It's dope.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
the
I was
jacket's
reading
cool.
somewhere
The
it's
jacket's
like,
so cool.
leather might have lasted longer, but I don't think that's true either. Leather's a natural product, like it degrades like anything else. I don't know.
Yeah, I
And
don't know. too
it
much
is
about
a really poor choice in the like arid environment. It's
It's
just
just, yeah, it's not smart.
It'd be so hot up in there, man. I guess that's why they need the arseless chaps. They
Yeah,
just
I guess
need some
so.
air flowing, man. Easy access and just
It'd be
'cause-
so moist. You'd be
Yeah.
sloppy the whole time.
Everybody
People would
looks dirty, and
smell.
I bet they smell even worse. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, you are 100% right.
So yeah, I guess the actors deserve better because man, it would have been hot filming with that leather on.
So did you
Yeah.
know there's two actors in Thunderdome that went on to become Play School presenters?
Really?
Yeah. So one of the young girls went on to become Play School presenter. I had her name in my head.
Master and Blaster.
And then George from Play School was one of
The
the
Master
bad guys.
Blaster.
Oh really?
Yep.
Well, I
For,
mean,
for anyone who's not Australian here, Play School was like a kid's show.
A
I
pivotal
mean-
kids show for everyone.
Yep.
I can see they went that direction after Thunderdome, so they were
Makes
already on their way there.
Yeah, George Spartels.
Do you know who
All
the
right.
girl was?
Jemima.
Um,
This is a true Aussie podcast.
Yeah.
Justine Clark. Justine.
Okay, I'm gonna look her up.
Anyway, interesting little connection. I don't know. I enjoy seeing all these Australian actors and then them continue on to do other things. I
Yeah.
think Bruce Spence does a better. I don't know. I really enjoyed him in number 2, and then they didn't give him much to do in number 3.
He
And he's like the
disappeared.
best part of like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Like he's so good in so many movies.
That's what I know him from.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I know him from. See, that's the thing. Because I thought he was the same character, I was like, oh, wait till Max finds out it was that old scamp that's taking his thing again. And he's like there watching and he seems to be like avoiding Max. And I was like, oh, he knows it's him. He like did that thing at the start of the film. And then he just disappears for the rest of the movie until the very end when he shows up again. And I was like, what's going on? That was literally my whole gripe the whole movie. I was like, what's going on with Max and this guy? I don't know what's going on.
It is a bit strange, but
Have we covered fixing these films? We want to move on to Mad Max 2, the best Mad Max, second
Well,
best.
how do you guys fix Beyond Thunderdome? Because if you just remove the kids, it's 50 minutes long.
That's
so
what
you
I was
can't.
going to say. Remove
There we
the
go.
kids.
You've got to fill it in. So what do you do for the other 30 minutes?
Send him to some other civilization. Surely there's another civilization in the desert. Make it an indigenous civilization. Make him learn from them and learn how to survive in the desert. And
And not kids. Not
just
kids.
the kids, yeah.
Because they
I mean,
can't act.
That's a good rule for all films. Just don't put kids in there.
Yeah.
I feel like it's better now because a lot of kids are probably doing acting classes at a young age. Back then, it was just like, hey, grab what's his name's kid, chuck him in here too. He can
That's
be
good.
our main star for this scene.
Does feel
That's-
like that.
It's because they have like 30 kids as well, right? I don't think there was many Australian kids who were acting it in '85, unfortunately.
Oh, I thought you were saying everyone back then had 30 kids, so they had lots to choose from.
They did too.
That
as
too.
well.
have,
It was George
Doesn't
Miller's
fly.
kids. He was like, go kids, run on the scene.
you got a fix for number
Yeah.
one? Cut
Um,
the bit out. Make
I
it
really no, I really think the script just needs a good overhauling because the film feels like and like obviously disagree with me if you feel compelled to, but I feel like it really is a revenge movie at its heart. Like you have the very long opening chase, which sets the whole scene in the world with Knight Rider as this, he's this villain. That's an opening act that goes for way too long. I think takes up too much of the film. Even like you could make the film as a whole longer, but the fact that the opening sort of event takes ages is a bit clunky. And then there's a lot of sort of nothing happening. And the whole thing of Max getting out of it, there's no real reason. He's like, oh, I feel disillusioned because I was in a car crash. But we're also told the whole time that Max is this hero who's this badass driver. You kind of get this idea that he's like the king of these, these police, these V8 Interceptor drivers. And he's just like, oh, that was hardcore. I want to leave. And then the film actually then, the only narrative of the film is when his wife dies, which happens at like 2/3 in. I really just think that needs to happen early on. Like you could very simply do like a small car chase to open it, have Knight Rider or one of Toe Cutter's boys killing his, like he stops him, and even at the halfway point, just have it a lot earlier, cut out the whole forest waning part. And I because my other issue is that Max's descent, where it's like, the final scene where he gives the guy the saw, and he's like, you can either cut through this chain or your leg in half the time.
That's
That's meant to be like, wow, he is a monster because only a monster would do that. But that's the only time we really see that because he doesn't even kill Toe Cutter. Toe Cutter dies by another truck.
Yep.
So I think there needs to be more time showing Max's, getting revenge or gradual decline, and then that last moment. That's my fix.
Yeah, like you could nearly flip it around. Yeah, have the scene that causes him to need revenge. Yeah, start. Yeah, that's not a bad point. All right, Mad Max 2. How good is it?
The best. Wow.
It's such a simple movie, but I don't know. I really enjoy it. I think it's very fun.
Yeah, I was like genuinely entertained from beginning to end in this one. And I feel like, again, similar to the first one, it's only an hour and a half long or so it breezes by. I feel feels brutal. I love the little gyrocopter thing as well. I think that's got like the snake as his defense thing as well, and then he just buries himself in the dirt as well.
And he's wearing those weird pajama pants and the coat.
Yeah. Man, it feels so like, gross. It's Max eating the dog food. Like,
and like really into it. Another dude's jealous. It's like, oh yeah, this is survival times.
Yep. And the dog's just watching it. I feel like the dog's iconic in number 2, and I feel that's like a massive thing when the dog gets shot as well. I don't know. I was kind of like, oh no, when his wife and child get run down. It's kind of shocking to me, but makes the scenes in Fury Road make more sense with stuff that happens with flashbacks and stuff like that. But yeah, like genuinely entertained by this film. I love the whole thing that they're controlling this like tanker, and they've got all access to all this gasoline, and these people trying to come in over and over again, and anyone that leaves there, they're going to hunt them down. Like if anyone escapes, like boom, they take them down. It feels threatening. It feels like, how are they going to get past? When he goes out on his own to grab the truck and bring it back, it feels tense, and they're chasing him down. For him to just try and get back inside, it feels tense. The few cars that get into the little compound, it feels like, oh god, what's going to happen? It's so good, and it is so simplistic. Like when I try and think about the plot of the film, I'm like, well, he finds that place and he helps them bring the truck back there to get the fuel. Like
pretty much,
that's it. But it's entertaining. So
yeah, I really love how like over the top humongous he is, and like I don't know, even like the feral kid and stuff. Like I know it's a bit weird, but there is some fun there. And
I hate the feral kids so much.
Yeah. I hate him like talking or screaming or laughing or whatever he's doing. Like
I like him throwing the boomerang, and I love that he has a glove like that's chainmail to catch it.
Yes, catch it. It's just so funny how when he hits the guy in the head, his friend ducks and he's just standing there and just hits him.
Yeah,
it's like, come on, buddy.
And then they all just laugh at him too.
Yeah,
poor guy.
Yeah,
I don't know. I really enjoy just Max doing recon too for like 3 days, just
compelling,
sitting up there with his binoculars and checking out what's happening. And and you get some like some pretty violent scenes happening, like pretty shocking stuff going on. And
and it feels like this is a post-apocalypse. Like it feels like this is really horrifying to be in this world.
It reminded me of Clockwork Orange for some reason. Like just
my wife said the same thing. Said the same thing.
Pretty hardcore, and
yeah, and like I don't know. You're right. Grant, what you're saying before about world building, I think this film does it really well. Like things like how he's got the shotgun and he only gets bullets at the very end. It's just this idea of like there is nothing left. He's got one can of dog food, and that's kind of his food for a few days. Gasoline there's a siege happening because driving cars are so crucial in the desert.
Yep.
Like the gyro captain, he has the snake, and when it dies, he's like, I'm going to eat this, and he's really excited about eating this snake.
I've got a recipe for it. It's delicious.
Yeah, just this.
You're not getting any,
really cool. So like little bits of world building like that. Even things like how he finds like the dye. The dead guy's got a dye in his bag, and he's kind of just little things like it's a trinket from the past. He sort of knows, but it's just little things that really add to it. They make it so much more interesting. And just super taut, super tense. Like the car chases are really entertaining. Similar deal, like Max isn't invincible. He gets messed up really easily. And
really quickly.
But it's his smarts, right? Like he's got the bomb in his car that outsmarts him. He's got just the will to sort of do this stuff, and that's what keeps him alive. I was reminded a lot of A Fistful of Dollars in a lot of ways. Like turns up to a town, there's problems there.
Yeah,
it's a very simple premise. gets messed up, but he managed to outsmart these people. And he's not a hero. He's just there to get the gasoline and then leave.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did Max know about the bait and switch at the end?
Oh, true, with the dirt in there.
I don't think so. No.
No, it didn't. Like, it didn't seem like he did. But that's
No.
interesting. Like, it's kind of cool.
I think that's such a nice touch.
He did get outsmarted by these people and was completely their bait and decoy, to get taken out. But I completely forgot about that actually. And then
This is nice. Yeah.
Do you like the whole? It cracked me up actually. What at the start of the movie, you know how it's got the narration. The guy's like narrating the film, and it ends up it's the feral kid, isn't it? And he's saying that's the last time I saw Max. Yeah, man, that voice. I swear I was watching a beer commercial because that voice is like the voice of and a hard-earned thirst is it's that same voice actor. Yeah. So the start of Mad Max when he's talking, I'm like, I said to my wife, I was like, why do I feel like I'm watching a beer commercial? And she was like, because that's the voice. That's the voice. But it cracked me up every time he was talking. It's just synonymous with Australian ads. I feel like that voice now.
It is it's a very Australian voice. You're right.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you guys I was going to say something about the feral kid, and I've completely forgotten about the feral kid. Something about him.
What a turd he was.
Yeah, I mean, he was. I do like that it cuts the guy's fingers off when he tries to catch it, and he's just But yeah, I don't know. I really like that movie.
Yeah, I don't know. It's it's a tale as old as time, right? Like I mentioned before, it's this it's riffing on the westerns and the samurai stories, like the mythologies of all these sort of old cultures of wandering heroes and cities under siege and all that stuff. And it's that sort of tale for the Australian outback. And so it's really familiar, but it's also completely new. And just so many great practical effects on display. They blew that place up at the end. They had one shot.
I was going to say it looked like they actually blew it up. Yeah,
they just blew up a little mini town. It's awesome. All the car crashes, obviously, with all these films are real. There's no CGI. There's nothing. They just mess stuff up. I'm practical effects, baby.
I kind of like this town's all these people with these white, kind of futuristic clothes. They all look like they're from Sweden. They've got the blonde hair, and they're just
it's an interesting look on a few of them. And that dude up on the flamethrower all the time. Man, the flamethrower was cool, but it was super ineffective.
Yeah, he dies fast. Yeah. But it makes sense, right? Cricket players wear all white because you're in the sun all day, so they're wearing white with turbans, because the city's not well built. They've got no shade in the whole area for some reason.
Makes more sense than leather.
Yeah,
it does.
Just saying.
Does the Humongous's outfit make more sense where he's wearing nothing?
Technically, yeah.
But he's going to get sunburnt real bad
as an intimidation tactic.
But he's got a helmet on, so his face isn't going to get sunburnt.
That's the rest of him. That doesn't matter.
Could have a coolant system in that helmet. I don't know.
I don't think he's Bane.
Oh, true. I wanted him to break out a few Bane quotes. The gasoline rises.
Humongous is the villains are just really interesting. Where, I mean, the biker with the mohawk's kind of frustrating. Where he's just always and just roars at people, and I don't know.
The red mohawk dude.
Yeah, the villain, the main sort of antagonist that Max sees at the beginning.
Yeah,
he's kind of an.
And then he's on the bonnet of the car with a chain, his chain on his neck, and then they undo it you're unleashed now, wild one. And he's like, no, and starts chasing after Max.
All that's a bit strange. But I like Humongous being this freakishly large dude. And it's kind of is he a mutant? Is he sort of unnaturally large, or what exactly has happened? But
I do I like how they do this in almost all the Mad Max films, but they don't have to answer every question. They don't have to lay out the politics of the whole world or anything like that. It's just this small story that Max is intrinsically involved in, but he's not even the character. We learn more about the people in the town than we do about Max, really.
Yeah.
In this movie. And it's just I don't know. It's cool that it's a I mean, all these movies are like this, but they're really awesome action movies. But there's no guns hardly. There's very few shots fired. Like as you say, he only gets the shotgun shells at the end. Dude with the crossbows going off for a bit, but
you're right. There's no gunplay. It's all just car chases and
the gauntlet crossbows.
Yeah,
is pretty inventive.
They're pretty gangster. Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
They're in Assassin's Creed games now. It's just it seems so like influential in so many sort of video games and stuff like that these days.
Yeah, no, for sure. One thing I really like, and this is kind of the thing, but Max's hair in this film, because we talked about it last time with Spider-Man and how Tobey Maguire ugly cries, and that's really good to do. His hair in this is like ugly long. It's not styled long. It's not like they've carefully made it look like it's like it's sort of rough, but it's actually really carefully done. It's just he had like just a short hair and it's grown out, so it's long on all the sides. It looks like crap.
Yep.
Fantastic choice. It's just
Yeah,
such a
his hair is kind of wild, isn't it?
yeah, but it is like that's bad wild. You should get like that needs a haircut. It's never like he looks cool. It's just like you've got a mess of hair.
It looks like a dude who had his wife cut his hair, and his wife's gone now, so he's just
Exactly.
yeah,
There's no barbers in the afterworld world.
exactly.
Love it.
That's what I was going to say about the feral kid. How much of your essay was based off how much you dislike the feral kid?
It was that. It was
At least 10 pages.
Characters that should not exist. The feral kid. And it was just that. And it was like a lot of just me saying the feral kid sucks. He's why he sucks. I hate him.
Yeah, true.
I don't know. Yeah, just the feral kid really irks me.
When he like is I can't even tell what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, is he trying to laugh or communicate or whatever he's trying to do? That I hate that. Like
He's like
yeah,
it's definitely what it's like.
pretty much.
There's no reason why. Like everyone else is fine. I get it's like the generation born after, but why is he just completely?
Well,
primal?
I mean, he doesn't seem to have any parents within the compound, though, does he? Like,
yeah, I guess
it doesn't seem like it. Like, I imagine he was just left out.
They
in the
found
wilderness,
him.
I suppose,
They
somehow.
found him. It's like, I mean, man, I've seen on A Current Affair people barking like dogs because they're raised with in dog kennels. So I'm sure in this post-apocalyptic, then it makes sense.
Maybe. But
Man,
maybe.
I was just going to say, how much did the tanker at the end remind you of Fury Road? Like,
Yep.
Honestly,
After watching it, I was like, I can't wait. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's Fury Road now.
Like you can just tell that there are so many things in here that you can tell he's like, this is a cool idea. How do I execute it? And it's kind of like he's locked it away. He's like, that could be better, or that's really cool. I want to do something again with that. Even like the flamethrower to an extent. It's like that looks really cool. And then we get the flame guitarist.
I'm just going to put a guitar on it, man, and have a guy shred on it. That's going to make it the coolest possible thing.
Have we held out long enough? Do we need to talk about Mad Max Fury Road now?
Yes, I'm ready.
Man, what a freaking film! Like, it has some of the most inventive like vehicles and characters I think ever. Right? Like,
is it the best action movie in recent
of the 21st century? I think so.
Like it's oh man, balls to the wall, start to finish. Just this like thrill ride, adrenaline pumped. Like it's crazy. I love the soundtrack in it. I really love the soundtrack in Fury Road, by Junkie XL. Like, man, the guitarist shooting flamethrowers out, just rocking, man. He's got the weird bandages. People are so gross in this film. Like, just you got like what is it? Is it the man eater or something like that, or the guy that has like the people eater. You know, he's just there like rubbing his nipples through these holes in his suit, and like massive
his feet are like
elephant man feet, and it's just
gross.
Oh man,
shows like his skin,
before they put the suit on him at the start, it's brutal.
It's so interesting seeing a movie that comes 20 years after the last installment. Like when that happens, it's usually a real flop. It's usually just like, this is a cash grab. This is just a soulless thing made for no real reason. But this is the exception where you can tell. And like I said before, Miller has been churning this over in his head for 20 years. And he's just like, I want to make more Mad Max. And he's finally with it. He reached a point like, this is what my vision looks like. And I think this is what he always imagined Mad Max looked like. And it's just amazing because like it's completely realized. Everything is, there's no misstep in that film. And that's an example as well of weird like script writing. The script shouldn't work, but it does. Because there is no narrative, there is no, it's just one chase and then it's a chase back.
Yeah.
But it's so well paced because there is like these huge action scenes and there's a quiet moment of character development and there's a huge action scene and then a quiet moment. And it's done so well. And he's got such a good rhythm for film at this point where it's like, it's 2 hours long, that movie, and it is never dull.
No,
it is just the most. Oh, I love it so much.
Yeah, there's a really good good sense of like impending doom. Like these guys are right on their ass all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
why are you slowing down? Why are you stopping? Why are you wasting time
Mm.
bickering? Like, you need to get the F out of here.
Stuck in the mud, like, oh no, that guy's coming now. I'm shooting machine guns everywhere.
And cool moments like you see those cars with all the spikes on them, and they speak Russian for some reason.
Yeah.
And just this little world building moment of like, okay, so there's like a Russian group here with spiky cars. That's really interesting.
There is so many little world building moments, and I think you do see that in the other movies, but it definitely this is where it comes like full force. Like the dude, like the crow looking dudes walking on stilts in the swamp. Like
I
you
always
see
forget
them
about
for like
them.
a minute, like they're not really mentioned, but it's like, what the hell is going on over there?
Who
I
are
want to
these
know
people?
more.
Like,
what are they doing?
There's no one watching them. What are they doing? Like it just yeah, like man, the crows, I always forget about them, and when they pop up, I'm like, oh man, that's creepy. Like that's some bloodborne stuff. It's just like I love Nux as well, and I feel like it's so frantic that fight scene where Nux is fighting, Max is fighting, Furious is fighting. Like when they first catch up,
Such a good scene,
and the whole scene where him like climbing up with the ammo for the gun, and like he sticks it in Max's. He's holding the other side of the gun, and like boom, 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 shoots next to Furiosa's head. It's just such a cool scene. Little moments like there's this scene where like Nux swings and like kicks Max while he's hanging from Furiosa's arm, like kicks him onto the other car, like like drop kicks him on there to swing him around there. It's just it's so cool, and I love Nux's character arc, and I love the witness me crap and the chrome spraying, and it's like I don't know what's happening, but it's so cool.
Yeah, like doesn't make any sense, but I'm so here for it. Like,
because it believes in it, right? Everything in there, it's like there's a reason for this. We don't know it, but there is one. It's like, what's he spraying on his mouth? Who cares? It makes them go crazy and do weird shit.
Yeah,
like, so many quotes. Witness me, like died majestic on the Fury Road, shiny and chrome. Like,
and
I
like
remember.
Sorry, go.
I was saying for years after it, everyone was just quoting this film and like, it's amazing.
I was just going to say, like, the concept of like the blood bag, like having this human being attached to the front of your vehicle so you can like have an infusion of his blood.
Yeah.
It's like so creative, and it leads to all these moments where like Max is tethered to someone else, and
he's
it's
on the front of the car, still being drained of his blood.
There's like so Miller in all these films, he does an amazing job with the language of what they call people. Like the guy in that's called the organic mechanic, and so obviously he's just like a doctor, but they see the world through vehicles, so he's an organic mechanic, and so like they tattoo on his back. I know I saw a bit of it. One of them's like, I think it mentions like his testicles being intact or something, and so it's like they've mapped out how his entire body works fine. So that's why he's a universal donor, because he's got no broken bits.
He could donate anything.
Exactly. And things like in the second one, the Lord Humongous, and then in this you've got like Imogen Joe, which is a play on immortal. You've got Rictus Erectus, which is like, we sort of know that means tall and hard, but we don't quite know what these words means. Like things like Auntie Entity, it's like this. He's got a really great play on language and how it evolves on in time. That again isn't great in Thunderdome, but is really great in Fury Road.
The Doof Warrior.
The Doof Warrior.
Amazing.
I was it actually took me back. I forgot to mention this earlier when we were talking about Mad Max 1, when he does that thing about you have 5 minutes to cut your leg off or whatever. And he's like, "You're mad, man." I was waiting for him to be like, "I'm Mad Max," and just like walk off as this car exploded.
Then put the sunglasses on.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. I can't, like, it's just the action in this, and the fact that when you look at behind the scenes stuff, so much of it was practical effects, and you can tell that, like all the cars exploding and crashing into each other. I love the aesthetic of the massive sandstorm, like hurricane.
Cool. So cool.
I legit was like sitting there cackling, being like, holy shit, when the car like blows up and is spinning in the air and there's the bodies flying everywhere in the hurricane at the start. It's insane, and it's so damn good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, like the practical effects, like when they're up on the poles and they're swinging down.
Oh, amazing!
Like, how did they make this movie? Like, this is some Cirque du Soleil shit. Like, it's just wild. This is all practical.
And even like as soon as Max lands and the guy bends over, picks him up, he gets him off, then Max bounces back again. It's just like so chaotic. And it's like, oh God, they're about to escape. Oh no, now this thing's happened. And it's just like so many moving parts happening at once.
Yeah, it would have been such a mess to make. And you read about it how both Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron got really frustrated with George Miller on set. Like Tom Hardy, pretty like notoriously, he like had a real spat with him and like, you know, it was like really bad relationship. And then afterwards, when he finally saw the film, he went and apologized to Miller and was like, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have questioned you."
Oh, really?
And Charlize Theron to the same thing because Miller was just like he wasn't giving them much to work with, and Max in that film isn't a character.
No.
He just grunts replies. And so it'd be hard to like act in that headspace. But Miller's just like, do this, trust me, it works.
Yeah.
And it did. And it's just a fascinating idea of like, here's this dude's vision that shouldn't be filmable, shouldn't work, but it truly does. And I think we're all better off for it existing.
There's so many, but that's the thing. I think I always forget that like Max barely talks in this film. And it legitimately feels like it's 50 minutes into the movie until he gets the thing off his face and says his first word. And it's like, it's such a relief when it comes off because he's there like trying to get it off for ages. And when it finally comes off, I feel like I could breathe. I was like, it's off now. Like, and he's got the blood thing taken off him. But I feel like it makes the little personable moments with Max stand out more. I don't know. I really love, and I know it's a meme now, like the little thumbs up, like when he looks back at the girl who survived, he's just like good for you. And I don't know. I love the comment. Obviously, it's a meme again. Like that's bait.
That's bait.
It's great. Like there's a lot of scenes that have now turned into memes. Obviously.
Yeah, I just think it's a real testament to how Miller essentially created the action film twice. Like he did it in the 80s. Yeah. It's like that made the action blockbuster, and then action was kind of in a weird stagnant role in around like the 2010 era. And then this comes out and it's like, oh crap, he's done it again, guys. Look what's happened.
It's a breath of fresh air, and it still is now. It's like no one really mimicked this and kept it going.
I'm surprised. Well, I'm just surprised. Like, I can't think of the name. The Fast and the Furious. Like these are car movies that have been going on for decades and decades, and they're just churning out the same crap over and over again. Like this is the movie that should inspire them, and they're just I think more people need to sit up and take notice. Like, I'm looking forward to more action movies like this.
Why has it been 6 years since Fury Road? Why have we not gotten another Mad Max yet?
So I mentioned this before with the budgeting. I didn't realize this, but Fury Road actually was not considered a success. Like it made money.
Blows me away.
It wasn't a hugely successful thing. In my mind, it was the biggest film of the year.
Yeah.
Like I remember I was there on not day one, but I was very excited for this film. Yeah. I saw it with all my housemates. I remember we went and watched it. And because I was working at the video store at this time, everybody I know was like, Fury Road's coming out. Fury Road's going to be awesome. And I just I forget, I guess I was just in a bubble, but outside of that, no one cared. And I'm like, this film generally...
He's dead, man.
That's kind of my thing looking at it. Like, the film didn't do huge. Did enough that there is a trilogy still coming. But I think, it took a long time to figure out how it's going to go. And Miller takes his time. He's like, he wants to make these movies good, which, kudos to him.
I do get the feeling he's not the studio's favorite person. Like this movie, apparently it took a long time to get made as well, and was over budget. And I don't know, but it's good to see like there's a spin-off and like a reboot. Like it's like a sequel. Like it's
it's Furiosa, but it's not Charlize Theron. Is that correct?
No,
it's young.
It's her origin story.
It's Anna Taylor-Joy, Queen's Gambit.
Which she's apparently great. I haven't watched anything with her in it. I'm a bit disappointed that it's not Charlize Theron though. She was fantastic, and she's awesome.
It's really interesting how good the female characters are in Fury Road when there's not many great female characters in the other Mad Max movies.
No, there's Tina Turner.
And there's the blonde woman from number 2.
It's like 2 has her. She dies pretty early on, and that's about it actually.
There's the one that wants to run away with the gyrocopter captain.
Yeah, that's right.
She's a pretty cool ponytail.
She looks like Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
Especially as the old lady they stay with in number 1. She's kind of badass.
I do feel like Miller has learned a lot, like over his career. Right? He's really He's matured as a writer.
that Fury Road was edited by his wife.
Yep.
Apparently,
Yeah.
she brought out a lot of that strength, which is cool.
And I think that's why the editing in this, the frantic sort of like the moments of sped up, where it's sped up, work better in this, because in the first three, I think they all look really bad. Like, especially in the first, there are so many moments where it's like someone's got fast forward. If you put Benny Hill music on it, it would seem fitting. There's so many moments, whereas in this, it's just like when you see like Max swing something and it's just sped up enough that it looks larger than life, but it doesn't look silly. So that was all her.
That's the thing. I remember reading something about, especially like the opening scene, like where he's running through the tunnels and it's all frantic and chaotic. I remember what they said that they did is they actually just removed like a single frame, like from each scene. So it was always sort of skipping. Like it wasn't done in like that traditional style of like speeding things up. They just removed a frame, so it was constantly like it was like juddering sort of thing. Like it was
slightly
really
jumpy.
Yeah, and they said that was like one of the first times that was done in that way. I remember seeing some interview about it, so don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure that's what.
So interesting.
And I remember being like, "Oh yeah, true," because I like I said, I'd never watched Mad Max before. I watched this opening night at the local cinema. We were going to go to the local RSM. I believe Thirsty Merc was playing, and it was all sold out. And I was like, hey, let's go to the cinema and watch this Mad Max movie. And my wife was like, oh, I've never watched them. I was like, I've never watched them either. But apparently this is really good because it was getting good reviews. And we went and watched it. And I remember like 5 minutes into this movie being like, what the hell is this? Like, I don't know what is going on. This is so crazy. And then time just like stood still as the rest of the movie played out. And I remember walking out being like, holy crap. That was intense. Like, I feel like I'm sweating. Like, I was like, that was intense.
This is one of the only movies where I've walked out of the cinema and like, I have to go see that again in the cinema. Like, I have to be here again in 2 nights to watch this again because it's so good, and it is breakneck pace. Like, it never lets up, really.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there is slow moments, but it's paced so well. Like, just
it always there's just enough to like develop all their relationships and the narrative, and then it's like, cool, let's get back into it for 20 minutes.
Man, the way they kill Immortan Joe.
Wow, it's amazing.
Gruesome, man, brutal.
There's a lot of grotesque things in this movie.
Yeah, it's a gross movie. It's a really gross movie.
When he's taking the baby out and he gets the umbilical cord, he like spins it around. Is like a.
He's so casual. It's not messed up, man.
Makes me shudder. Did I ever tell you guys that I knew the Doof Warrior?
Did you?
You have told me this once, and I remember being like,
he's married to one of the wives.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, with them guitars.
Oh, he was.
But he used to come into the video store. I remember I got his ID because he's an Australian musician called Iota. And I signed him up, and that was just his name. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And then it all clicked with me. I was like, holy crap. And we he came in pretty regularly, and I just gushed over him. I was like, you're the man. And he was a really cool guy.
Did he have the guitar with him like at all times?
He came in and just shot flames and like
over his shoulder all the time.
Burned down half my wall. I'm like, you can't do that, dude. You can't.
It's cool though. It's Doof Warrior. It's all right. Just try to aim it.
He just wears that one red onesie and like he's got no eyes.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Oh, I love that movie.
He just listens to the movies.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Mad Max is done and dusted. It's the spooky month, so we're gonna do Scream for our next trilogy. We're coming to you not live, but in color, in video. It's going to be a video podcast
for the first time.
So hit us up on YouTube if you want to see what our faces look like. If you're interested in watching video of us, we also do a podcast called Bonus XP about video games. Conan, you've got a book, The Taste of Iron.
Yep, available on Amazon.
It's basically like the sequel to Mad Max.
It has some commonalities.
It definitely seems very inspired by Mad Max.
Everything
a lot more gunplay, though.
The sequel will be The Taste of Guzzling.
Me and George Miller are working together on that. Taste of Iron, available on Amazon.com.
Or paperback if you know Conan directly.
Contact us for a signed copy.
All right. Any closing remarks, boys?
I am awaited in Valhalla.
All right. We'll catch you next time.
Rictus Erectus is a funny name.
It is a funny name.
It is. He was a wrestler.
Is he really?
The actor or the character?
The actor. Nathan Jones. Australian WWE wrestler.